Oh, how very cold it was. The wind howled and the snowflakes flew every which way. It was not a night to be out in the street. Oh, no. Anyone with half a grain of sense would be inside sitting as close to the fire as possible. Indeed, there was hardly anybody walking in the street. Oh, there were a good many carriages rushing about, making lots of noise and splashing mud up on the sidewalks as they flew, for it was a night the wealthy people went out to parties and balls at each other's homes. It was the last night of the year, New Year's Eve. If you looked very closely through the falling snow, you might see a very little girl walking alone in the darkness. Such a small child out alone in such bad weather? And if you looked even closer, you would see that the poor little thing was dressed in rags. Rags that looked too full of holes even for cleaning the house. Nor did she have a kerchief to keep the snow off of her head. And saddest of all, she was barefoot. She had started out of the house with a pair of slippers on, but they were much too big for her, having been her mother's, and so she had lost them along the way. Oh, how numb and cold were those little feet. You can just imagine. I'm sure you've gotten your mittens wet with snow, and if you can remember just how cold your hands felt before you stuffed them into your warm coat pockets, then you'll just begin to understand what cold is. The little girl had on an apron in which she was carrying bunches of matches that she was to sell, for she was known as the Little Match Girl. Today had been a very bad day for selling matches. She had not sold one bunch, and so, cold and hungry as she was, she walked the streets, still hoping to earn some money. It's no use. I'll never sell one bunch today. And I don't dare go home, for my father will be so angry at me. When she thought about her father's anger, she almost forgot about how red and blue with the cold were her poor little feet. Walk, walk, walk. It seems as if one street is as empty as another. Maybe I can find a place to sit down and rest for a while. To protect herself from the biting wind, the Little Match Girl found a little corner formed by two houses, one of which was a little further back from the street than the other. Oh, how good it feels to sit down. If only I could find a way to get warm. She drew those numb feet under her, but this only made her feel colder. The thought of going home crossed her mind, but it was so cold at home with the wind whistling through the holes in the roof. And besides, she hadn't sold any matches. Not one single cent. It was so good to rest, but it was so cold. Why not light a match to warm those numb little hands? If only she had the nerve to draw one from a tight little bundle and strike it against the wall. Slowly she drew one out. Wretch! How it sputtered and burned! The bright flame was like a little candle when she held her hand over it. How warm it felt, as though she were sitting before a great polished stove. It was such a good feeling that the little girl could actually see the marvelous brass stove before her eyes. In fact, she was just about to stretch out her feet when the flame went out, and with it the picture of the gleaming stove. All that was left was the burned-out end of a match in her hand. Oh, that was such a good feeling. I shall strike another match. She pulled one slowly from the bunch and struck it on the wall. Wonders! The wall seemed to disappear, and in its place stood a room with a large table right in the middle. The table was covered with a white cloth and all set with china, and on it sat a glorious roast goose stuffed with apples and dried plums. What was still more wonderful to behold, the goose hopped down from the table and waddled along the floor straight to the little girl. Just then, the match went out, and only the cold wall was before her. I must light another. Ratch! As soon as the flame came to life, she found herself looking at the most beautiful Christmas tree she had ever seen, greater and finer than any she had seen through the windows of the houses of rich people. Thousands of candles burned upon the green branch, not to touch them here. And the candles seemed to turn into the stars in the night sky. One of the stars fell, making a brilliant streak of fire in the sky. Oh, someone is dying. Before my grandmother died, she told me when a star falls, a soul goes up to heaven. The little match girl rubbed another match against the wall, and to her delight, there stood her beloved grandmother smiling at her. Grandmother, grandmother, oh, take me with you. I know you will go away when the match is burned out, just like the warm stove, the delicious goose, and the beautiful Christmas tree, but I don't want you to leave without me. Quickly, she rubbed a whole bundle of matches. Stay, grandmother, stay. The matches burned with such a glow that it was lighter than daylight. The grandmother picked the little girl up in her arms, and they both flew away, up high where there is no cold or hunger. And so the next time you see a falling star, perhaps you will think of the little match girl on the last night of the year.